The last time you saw the HemiHalf C10 back here, it was at a show and we heard it fire up, but only for a couple seconds. Enough farting around. This truck needs finished now. Sorry, I got a little angry there. So that's exactly what we're going to do on this episode. Finish this truck up and put it on the back roads of beautiful Tennessee. And maybe see if we can let some smoke out of them tires. Oh, guaranteed. Now, when we had the truck at the show there, we did hear it run, but realistically, it was only for like 2 or 3 seconds. It coughed, spat, banged, and shut off. And that's pretty much all we could get it to do under the time frame that we had there. When I got home, guy could not sleep. And I was wiping the sweats off the brow, and what is going on? Well, ended up digging back through this tune, and I had Chad here helping me. And we figured out that it was a fuel issue. What we had to do, unfortunately, was spray a little extra, fire make it happen, or threw the TB wind sucker in or up here, and it would run fine. Well, we had everything set to the recommended fuel pressure and the computer and everything else. Long story short, guy went and changed the fuel injector squirter machines in the boot bop wizard, cranked up the old fuel PSIs on the systems from the 43 to the 58, and now the thing runs, and it runs really good. I'll actually fire it up for you in just a second here, but we can't run it long because on our list to do, now, is we ain't got a belt. We don't got a belt, we ain't got a water whirler, we ain't got a charging whirler. We got a bunch of stuff to figure out, the power steering reservoir, the radiator's missing, the fans. We still need a TV cable for the transmission. There's a long list. But to put you all to ease, because I know a lot of you have been asking, let's fire this thing up for a second. Just lean through the window here. There we go. We got Hemi power in a Chevy. I still don't have a mat sensor hooked up, but it does the thing. It sounds great. It's great oil pressure. Starts up nice and easy, but this is pretty much all the longer I can run it until we get everything else put on. So we'll check that off. Now the 46RE transmission in here is electronically controlled and has a TV cable. So there's still hydraulic things going on in it as well. And I think that's where I want to start. I just want to know that the thing starts and moves under its own power, and we're going to have overdrive and everything else. Then we can move on to all the other accoutrements. So that being said, we're going to have to get down and see if we can hook in some bracketry. This is the original bracket. I think this is off a 727 actually. And this is a TV pressure lever for probably also a 727. Basically unobtainium, trying to buy these by themselves. Luckily I had a good friend step in. And then I've got a universal cable. This looks to be way too short, but we're gonna try to figure something out there. There is no setup, obviously, for what we're doing here, so we're gonna have to custom make all of this. And I've got an idea, instead of running this to the throttle body, we're gonna bring it right into the pedal. We'll have to fab some stuff up there as well. So first thing, let's get the truck in the air and see if we can at least figure out how to get this cable affixed to the transmission side, button that up, or at least have an idea of what we're doing. Then we could bring the truck down and start modifying the gas pedal and the firewall. And just it's gonna be fun. That's what I'm saying. First thing a guy did, of course, is run this through the cheek poker, clean them up a little bit, I've already got the TV cable lever up here, and basically it's on top of the shift lever tower thing. But basically what's supposed to happen is the more you depress the throttle, the more this lever pulls. It goes back like that, see? So you got shift lever shooting off this way. We're gonna have TV cable pulling this way. And then this bracketry, I believe, sits right up like that. So it kind of gives you an idea. The cable will be coming in this way, hooking into that, and then hooking onto this thing right here. then we're gonna have to make a loop over the transmission and try to get up. I don't think we could see it from down here, but the throttle cable is right about above my finger there, up in that direction. That's gonna be the goal anyway. So we're gonna see if we can get that universal cable to lock in and play nicely with this, first of all, and then I'm gonna measure from this bracketry to here. This is all loose, there's no pressure there. So right where it starts to pull, I need to measure the distance from here to here, and then also how far it pulls, because we're gonna need to know all that when we go up top and start doing stuff. This might work out pretty slick. I'm calling this side the firewall side because it's got this, I don't know, thing on it, all right? And that scoots into this thing, and then this would normally be like a throttle bracket or something like that. But we're gonna call this piece of metal the firewall, and then we'll have more adjustability here on the throttle pedal side, which is what we need. So this is probably gonna work. I just need to measure from here to here, make sure I have enough, and it looks like there's gonna be plenty, which is great. Might put a couple washers in here because this is supposed to have, looks like a plastic snap-in doodabby. We don't got a doodabby, we got a dippy. So I'm gonna get some washers on there, and if we snug that down nice and tight, I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. Now, as far as the lever goes, I do have this piece. I don't have anything to snap over that arm. It has a little ball stud, but if I drill that ball stud out, I could put this, well, you get the idea, through that arm and tighten that up. And why could not that work? I think it could, is what I'm saying. And this, well, wait a minute. There's a ball floppy right here. What if, hold on, I'll be dipped. That's gonna go right on there like that. We just ignore that. This goes on the end, boom, we're in business. So I think what a guy's gonna do is go ahead and just finish the bottom side. So get the transmission bracketry in, get everything locked down, snugged up, washers in, tighten this on, so we're done. I'll snake the cable up top, and then that's where the hard work's gonna go, because we have to modify that, you know, the old onion giver pedal. Well, that is in. Looks pretty good. I put some never come off juice on this fitting here, and also the little screw detent insert thingy. Got it looped around the shift machine like that and jammed up somewhere miscellaneously up there. We might have to adjust it a little bit, but I think we are officially done under here, and that feels good. So the wampums, you know, that comes in right here. It goes into like a fork on the original throttle pedal assembly. And my idea is, can a guy come in, you know, right next to it, probably down, you know, below this wire, but can a guy come in right here? And then can a guy also make another fork off of the original throttle pedal? And the idea here is, you know, when a guy hits the gas, you're pulling the throttle cable to the throttle body, and simultaneously we're pulling the cable to the TV, to the transmission. And then we don't need to come up to the throttle body, because for the longest time I was fighting different ideas on how to make, you know, we were making custom brackets, and I was getting ready to weld a nub on here, so we're pulling off the bottom and all this stuff. But I think this is just, you know, KISS method. Keep it simple if you can. Snag out the pedal here. Well, for crying in the mud, is that gotta be a 10 M&M? Hip. There we go. Well, here's the throttle pedal, you know, the old onion feeder, coal shoveler, you know. We already modified this a couple times and put it in 17 times. We're gonna do it again. Great. So here's that fork-a-doodab I was talking about. Can a guy go and make another fork-a-doodab right off of this? I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out. Well, someone at General Motors, a lot smarter than me, developed this throttle pedal, and it stood the test of time. And basically it's a round rod welded to a flat piece that's just bent in a certain shape. So I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. I'm just gonna take some round rod and bend an L, tack weld it onto a little tab, drill a small hole in here. We just need enough for the cable to go through and mimic this setup here. And in theory, you know, it should work. Pedal assembly over there is drying. You know, I powder coated that. You know, I got to get this fitting ready to go through the fire roll there. So we're going to do the hand grenade measurement method, which is where I'm going to close my eyes and just jam this through the firewall somewhere up there next to where the throttle cable comes in. And we're going to pretend that we meant to do that wherever it comes out. And then we can get all of this set up and adjusted while we're waiting for the pedal assembly to dry. And then hopefully it's just reassembly, figuring out the cable length, and testing to make sure that wide open throttle is wide open TV. Yeah. Come on, can't get any torqueuses on it. Torque. Okay, according to my calculations, that is precisely the width, depth, and location we needed. There we go. We got transmission on the left, throttle on the right, both snugged up, ready to go. I think that's going to work pretty good, actually. Hopefully, I got a shuttle that goes on the end of this cable, and then we can trim it up. I got the slack pulled out of it right now. Now we just got to get the two to work in unison. Well, the brake pedal is still drying from the powder coats, you know. So I'm going to move on and do a little bit more wiring. And there's not really going to be a lot to show here, but just kind of showing you guys the process. This is the transmission harness that Holley provides. It's a plug and play for the Terminator X Max that's going to run governor control on the 3/4 shift on the 46RE go forward, go backwards box down there. And there's a handful of wires here, and I finally found the schematicals on the Google Webs. I only need these three, really. Black is chassis ground, red is 12-volt switch power, and the brown and white is a brake switch because it needs to know when we're kicking off the overdrive. And then these are if you want to do indicator lights, or at least the light blue is for sure. When it kicks into overdrive, I don't know, you can have an indicator somewhere, for example. I don't know on these gauges, but I know on like New Vintage USA, they have an icon for that. So if you wanted to get fancy, you can hook that up as well. I already ran this yeller. Remember in advance, we said just in case, let's go ahead and run that because we're probably going to need power for the harness, and sure enough we do. And that comes out right here, so that's super easy. Get that knocked in. We've already got a chassis ground lug in there. So really all I have to do is break my back into 17 pieces, figure out the brake switch side, get that plumbed in, tuck all this, actually I'll probably shorten a lot of that up, and then I can put all this back, get it nice and loomed, tidied up. I got the original doodabbers we can get in there as well, and just try to make it look nice and orderly before we come back and plug in the gauges, which is already all wired in. Boy, it is raining cows and kittens out there. Good news is, no water in the shop, finally. If you want to see the mess on that and the whole backstory and whatever, you can go over to Vice Grip Lodge and see everything we've had to do to keep the water from coming into the building. It's been a nightmare. Wiring's coming along great. I'm actually, I think, knock on balsa, down to one wire, which is going to be getting the Holley to communicate with the digital dash cluster. Basically, we've got a VSS or vehicle speed sensor coming out of the transmission that's going into the Holley, and that's interpreting that signal. But now we've got to get the two to shake hands. You know what I mean? So I've got to connect a output from the Holley into the VSS signal input for the classic instruments, and then program the Holley to send the correct signal back over. There's instructions for it, thankfully. So basically, we're going to take a pulse width signal out, which is going to be turned into a speed signal by our programming on the computer box, put the two together, and all we should have to do is select the tire size in the rear gear, and then bingo, we've got an electro-digital speedometer without the cables. That's pretty neat. Oh, guy must have put 1 or 16 too many coats on here, you know. She's a little tacky, but that's all right. Well, here we go. We got an extra forkalizer, the little hole for that other cable. Now when we whop, pulling on the, doing the thing on the shift machine, same time. I'm gonna go mount this back up. This one, obviously, we know goes in there. Thread the needle on that, try to get it hooked up, and get back to testing. Throttle is officially done, and the TV juice cable down to the shift machine, and I believe the wiring is now complete and ready for Jessica to come in, pretty it up, get the dash cluster put in. She'll probably also do the floors and all that stuff. I'll just, you know, let's just go ahead and, yeah, let's shut that. Call that good. I think what we should do is move on to the coolant systems up here. Get the radiator in, get the lines hooked up for that and everything else, and start on that. One thing I for sure know I don't have, or at least enough of them, is these rubber grommetry holder inner things. So we're gonna borrow some from Independence over here. I don't have to have this ready for about another month, and to be honest, it's ready to go, other than, well, there's a slight dent in the rear I need to figure out still. So I'm gonna take this off, borrow these two rubber pieces, then we can go mount the other one in the pickup. The shop lion approves of the new seat covering. Hey, careful with them claws, for Pete's sake. Rubber doodabbies acquired. Another nice thing about GM is everything. So it doesn't matter, it's for Chevelle. Worked perfect here. Bottom ones I did, you know, them are news. Them are new. No, they're used, but I keep them clean. Okay? I'm gonna get the wiring done first. That way all a guy has to do is clip it together. So if you remember, we've already ran the fans and everything, just got to get the ends put together instead of just butt connecting them or something like that. The guy's going to go ahead and give them some serviceability. And I'll put this in here. Fan side will get this side. So if it ever needs to be serviced, or guy needs to take the radiator out or whatever, he can just unplug this and pull the whole unit out nice and easy. You don't have to cut into the wiring again. Going to use these solder magic seal metal glue sticks. I'll cut these in half and we'll wrap them, and I mean, just, we're doing it. That's what we're doing. Well, the fan wiring is all complete on both ends. We can go plop this in, get her bolted down. Coming in hotter than a $2 pistol. Yep. Snag. Snip. There we go. This is a Frostbite LS conversion radiator, and it fits great, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. There we go. that little rubber nub through there so she don't walk around on a filler, you know. They got a steam port fitting on there, I would assume. Now, I should be able to bring this back just like that. Snazzy. GM's got a few different radiator lids, although the provisions are there in the support, the front core support. There's this style, there's the big kind that goes over the top, and then there's the kind that dips down like we had to put on the Cat Farm crew cab. I actually just guessed on this one and got it right. Nailed it. There's a few reasons I chose on this radiator, but the most obvious you're going to see here, that plugs in down there, is top, top, bottom. Where are you, little devil? There it is. And bottom. So the hoses are right here. I could have used a traditional one, but then we'd have some weird, crazy hosage over there. The other nice thing about this rad is it has screw-in fittings. So you can choose your OD fitting, whether it's that flavor or that flavor, or whatever kind of combination hose you can find for your application. Screw that in, done deal. And if you got a steam port on an LS, that goes in here, and then of course you got your overflow. So she's all ready to rip. Got to find a couple more bolt trays here. Zip this down, plug the fans in right there, nice and easy, and the rad is in. Well, that's all snugged up, put to bed. I think a guy's going to put the ice cube juice hoses in here, but before I do that, I've got to put the Charge and Whirler relocation bracket try in, which is going to bolt in here, and it's going to raise it up. Now the Charge and Whirler is supposed to be here sometime tomorrow afternoon. We'll get to that here soon, but I need to get that bracket in before we start running this lower hose, or that could get a little dicey, you know what I mean? The other thing I need to do is shave this valve cover down per the constructions and smooth this out. So when the Charge and Whirler comes in, I guess it needs some clearance. So let's go ahead and do that now. And the other thing I'm going to do is move the engine ground from up here where it's kind of unsightly down to one of these bolts way down here, and just get that out of the way. Bracket is in. That fit great. Move the ground down like, you know, we were discussing there. But the problem I'm going to have next is, as you can see, the pulley is, well, it's not even remotely close to the other pulleys. So I'm going to have to take some measurements and probably try to drill my own holes. Once I can get a straight edge on this, or I might be able to find my belt laser from when I was working on Independence and try to get this stuff lined upwards. I mean, it's a good inch off. So that's going to be the next task, I believe. Started laying in a belt here just to get an idea. I think I'm going to pause on this until I get that Charge and Whirler in tomorrow, because this is going to be coming up over that, I believe, and then down across. So I want to get this other pulley in here, see where that's sitting, and then we can figure out, because I don't want to get too crazy here. If the alternator is in line, but this is pushed out, maybe I could find a different idler that has a different offset and bring this in a hair. You see what I'm saying? Okay, good. Boy, that plastic valve cover, that's a great idea. Sure made a mess. So I think let's go on to, let's work on the power steering. See if we can get this taken care of. I need to get a reservoir in here. This hooks to the reservoir.
the return, basically the return and the fill tank thing. We got to figure that out over here and get that done. We can cross that off the list. Slight change of plan, weird, I know. We're going to do the power, just relax. We're doing the power steering in a second. I got to looking at this and started panicking a little bit because that lower rad hose is going to come around by that pulley. So I went ahead and just figured it out quick. Yeah, we're using the Flexolite straw kind. Listen, I'm not doing 97 trips to the store with $490 in different hoses to spend 3 days figuring out a perfectly formed one to whatever vehicle. This is going to be fine. Okay, it's going to work. Now, I do need to keep it out of the way down here because this is coming up. Where is this going here now? This is going way over to the idler. And then this is going to come around the charging wheeler and down. So to keep this down, out, and out of the way, I actually used a aluminum clamp for a fuel pump. You usually get 2 of these in a kit. I had an extra one laying around. You know, it's going to work great rather than like a zip tie or something like that. It's got it nice and solid where it needs to be against the frame there. So boom, lower rad hose done. We'll probably have very similar for the top, but we got to figure out all this nightmare first. So on to this. I do have the OE style reservoir. That's this guy right here. So this used to plug into here, which plugged into a big coolant tank thing, plus all the other stuff on the fender. What do you need? Okay. So we're going to have to reuse this, or I'd like to reuse that, I guess. We don't have to. And then figure out how to get it into the pump and all that stuff. Well, the guys looked at this at least 418 ways to Sunday. We're kind of limited here. This can't be, you know, sideways anywhere. So that leaves over here, back there. But what I'm thinking, what if a guy put it right here? That would look nice, wouldn't it? Kind of like a factory look to her. Got the wiper juice over there, and then the steer and left go right juice here. And then that leaves us nice and close. Whoa. What do you got going on over here? Oh, you coming to hang out? Anywho's, this leaves this nice and close. Probably don't even got a change on it. And then we'll have a nice short run here. Problem is, this used to slide into the coolant overflow that used to be here. And that's gone. We're not going to use that. So I got to make some sort of bracket for this to do the thing. So I'm going to get out some paper, draw something up, see if we can come up with a little bracket here. Guy made his template here. This is going to go on like that. Well, hopefully. And wouldn't you know, it was the exact width I needed anywho's. So I'm going to go ahead and buzz this out, and then we'll drill some holes. I got just enough flappage on there. Get a couple screws in here, and then we'll put 2 bolts in up here. Hang this thing off, and that should be pretty sturdy, huh? Yeah, think so. There we go. Bracketry achieved. I don't know. It ain't the best, but good enough for the girls we date, right? That'll hang it. So up here I took a hole that was already here. I believe it was a Fact-Try hole, and just walled her out. I'm gonna use a nut cert, get one side kind of snugged, and I can mark the other, drill that one out, and we'll have 2 nice big bolts hanging the bracketry, and then 4 bolts holding the reservoir itself, and bingo, bango. Well, this ain't so bad. It's solid. I still can snug this up a little bit, but here's the best part. That one can go right there, and then I just got to figure out, boop to bang, snip in a line there, snag in some juice, and that's good to go. Nice and clean, handy, easy to get to. Looks pretty good. There we go. Hopefully this doesn't leak all over the floor. Yep, it will, I'm sure. Of course, we got a bleed on this as soon as we get her fired up. Saw on the wheel, get the air out, all that stuff. But for now, we're just testing on the leaks. Just use some, regular old rubber hose here. Looks pretty good. Wow, for Pete's sake, how do you run the lid on this thing? I never seen such a deal in my life where this doesn't even go on right. Well, I think the guy should go ahead and start on the air intake system here. I don't know if I'm going to finish it tonight. We might have to finish it in the morning, but I got a universal jobber here I'm going to show you. So this is the Delta Force Assist kit. It's made by Flowmaster. It's just a universal kit, but it's got 58,000 different clamps, all the hardware, bracket try. You got the fill tray, like 3 dozen rubber boots to make any sort of angles and whatever else. And then over here on the truck, I got the tubing laid up here. It's like this pre-molded, it's a lot of tube, basically, like a lot. But you got a couple 90s and 45s and whatever these angles are, math, stuff like that. For us, I think it's going to be really easy, just like on the cat farm. I'm going to cut it right here. Basically, I think all you do with these is just yapsa wherever you need it, right? So snip right there. We come down here, cut it here. And then the filter goes on here, down in this box reason right here. And then the wind sensor, boop, we'll put that in there and it can censor the wind or whatever it does. And then all we need is a rubber boot here and then whatever conglomeration of things to get the filter hanging off. So I'm going to go ahead and snip it here and snip it here and we'll see what we got. Even came with some like reducer thingies for different size throttle bodies and stuff like that. But got the filter kind of mocked up there. And this is what it's going to look like. Of course, that'll go in there, but something like that. And then I got some bracket try. I could try to come off that wheel well there and hold that up instead of supporting itself off the, cable here. Normally I'd just let her flop around, but I guess we could try since we got the stuff. And then I still got plenty of, well, hopefully, oh yeah, I got plenty of clearance there. Once we get this in here and built, I'll probably just take it right back out because we got to fart around with the belt and this thingy still tomorrow, but at least we know we can get it in and have it done. So I did get this figured out, that yellow mark down there. I got to drill a hole and put a bolt in, but basically I can get this up like this. I kind of wanted this line to be more parallel or even with the rad support. I didn't want it hanging down all dorky looking. So that's going to do that. We'll just have to test hood clearance, but that's going to be tomorrow. I'm pretty well spent for the night and we need the charging whirler to kind of progress forward. Tomorrow morning we'll get that in. We'll figure out the belt. We're going to have to probably do some machining here, move this around. We got charging whirler wiring here, and then we got to doll all that up and top rad hose, and then we might be ready to go ahead and twist on the ignition stick again. Let this thing sit here and idle. We'll have some ice cube juice in it, start checking for leaks, go through the gears, and boy, it's going to be a really good day tomorrow. So I'm going to go throw my hooves up for a little bit. We'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning back on the HemiHalf. Top of the morning to you. Clink. That's supposed to be coffee cups or whatever. Anywho's, just Google eyes, interweb the tracking number for the charger whirler. Looking like this afternoon or maybe even a little bit later. We got to keep the feet moving. You know what I mean? There's plenty of other stuff to do. So Jessica's on her way up to the shop. I'm going to put her to work. What I'm going to do is start buffing this paint, which is a huge project. There's going to be a lot of time in it, but I think it's going to be worth it. It's going to look great afterwards. And equal amount of time is the interior here. Jessica's going to get in there and strip the floor down with a wire wheel. She's going to pour 15 this after we rust treat it. We got some boom mats to put in, some vinyl floor. I think she's even going to put in some new weather stripping and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to try to work in concert here, stay out of each other's way. And when that charging whirler comes up wherever I'm at on the paint, I'm going to switch gears and go back to mechanical. And I think Jessica will keep the foot to the floor on the interior, at least until she's got to go get the kids from school. Plan.
Now this is 80s paint, and a lot of you are familiar with that. It doesn't matter the vehicle make or model. They were not good at painting cars in the early to mid 80s. Things were changing, the EP of the A's and the air quality and standards and everything else left us with really thin, unreliable paint. That's pretty much what we've got here. I'm gonna have to be really delicate on this one. I just can't go straight to the Sriracha and a lanolin whirler on this one. I'm gonna be using a correcting cream and a very light foam pad. And we're just gonna hit this, see what happens, and try to preserve as much paint as we can on this. I don't wanna rip right through this thing. I'm gonna get started on the other side. A lot to do, like I said. We'll check in with Jessica while she starts in on the cab here.
We have a lot of work to do in this cab. I think the goal is going to be getting the vinyl floor and seats put in, but first I need to get it cleaned up, so I'm going to vacuum out all this mouse nest, all the debris and everything you see here on the floor. Then I'm going to use the wire wheel to get it really as clean as I possibly can. We're going to treat the rest, and then I'm going to paint with the Pour 15 and get started there. You can see here that this is so old it shrunk up, and it's just brittle and breaking in places, so we're going to rip this out and put some new stuff in. Well, that came out easy. I know Derek has talked about it a lot, but it's just incredible to me how rust-free it is in here. Usually these old trucks are just completely rotted out there. I got it wire wheeled and I got it cleaned out pretty good, but before we treat it, I'm gonna clean it up here with some mineral spirits. The reason I'm doing this is I need to make sure that it's really clean. Since I'm gonna be painting on the Pour 15, I wanna make sure that I'm not brushing through like any dirt or anything that's potentially gonna gum up the brush.
Well, the guy's moving right along. Unfortunately, with it being white, it's gonna be difficult for you guys to see, but we actually got quite a bit of shine out of this thing. It's looking pretty good. And I'm not doing like a diamond top tier polish. I'm just spot buffing it here and there, just trying to make it look a little bit better. Still have to pressure wash the inside of the bed and some other stuff anyway. So chances are I'm gonna hit it with the buffer down the road again, but just trying to make her go in the town rig for now. Jessica's currently wiping the inside of the cab out with mineral spirits, prepping it for the rust treatment and the Pour 15 we're gonna be putting down. Also, it's a really good chemical to neutralize, the mice smell. And for whatever reason, well, it's a really obnoxious smelling chemical. Chases them bad boys right out of there as well. I've got the front clip and the door left, so I'm gonna keep moving along. Jessica and I are kind of just switching sides. And hopefully here pretty soon we can put that rust treatment down and get this cab drying with some Pour 15.
This is a Rust Fix by Duplicolor that we use pretty often because it's cheap, it's easy to use, and it really gets the job done. You spray it on and it turns the rust black. It actually doesn't turn like the paint or anything black, just the rust, which is really crazy to me. But it doesn't fix the rust necessarily, but it definitely slows it down.
Guy's getting woozy. We got some chemicals in here. Jessica's got the rust treatment baking in there. That's got to dry before we can get that Pour 15 laid down. While that's going on, I'm going to do a finishing touch on the truck, jump ahead here. Now the name HemiHalf, some of you already caught on to. Back in the day, there used to be a truck called the Big 10, was a GMC version, or the Heavy Half, which was the Chevrolet version. And basically, it was a half-ton pickup with the higher GVWs. It was a sneaky way that GM got around some of the smog stuff because it was technically a bigger truck. It had bigger leaf springs in the back, I believe bigger brakes, some other engine options and things like that. But basically it was just a half-ton truck with a cute little name on her. So I was thinking about the Heavy Half, and of course I came up with the HemiHalf. The Heavy Half had a sticker back here on the bed, so of course our truck's gonna need one too. I'm terrible at putting these on, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. We got one shot. Oh boy, my eyeball is saying something like that. Yeah, it's gonna have to be it. It is now officially the HemiHalf C10 right here. One of a kind, unique, Hemi powered C10 pickup truck. I think you guys are gonna like the color of the sticker too. It's kind of like the Gentleman Jim color, but it's gonna match the Heli brand wheels, see. Yep. There we go, fellers. It's the HemiHalf. This side's all licked out too.
I got the floor done. It looks pretty good. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be putting in boom mat and then obviously the vinyl flooring. So looks really good for now, I think. We're going to let it dry overnight, and that's really all I have time for today. So I will see you guys back here tomorrow.
I wasn't sure if buffalating on this was going to be worth the time on account of all the rust and everything, but look at this. It's actually eating all that surface rust off and doing the thing with the white paint. So I guess I'll keep at it. Unfortunately, someone put some really goofy, must have been vinyl stripes or something on here. And that's what these are. So now we have clean white stripes on the white truck. Great. Hey, the Charger Whirler showed up. This is a unit made by Holley. 150 amperesses on this bad boy. And it's a one-wire unit, which is going to be really nice. Throwing in the old Chevy here. Now, I've been jumping all over the place. I'm going to give you a little summary of where we're at here. We got the radiator in, the fans are wired, the power steering reservoir is in and plumbed, lower rad hose is in. Jessica's got the cab floor cleaned. She treated the rust. It's pour 15 painted, that's drying. I've buffed the paint, we got the stickers on. We're cruising right along. The next big thing to complement that Charger Whirler bracket is to get this puppy in there and start working on our belt, figure out our belt length, and so on. Once that is on and working correctly, we can finally fire this thing up and get it up to temperature. It's gonna be awesome. Charger Whirler's in. These two pulleys are right on the money with one another, but I'm concerned about that. I'm gonna have to, I don't know, maybe I can space out that idler a little bit and try to work a belt on there, see what happens with that. I mean, obviously it's engineered to work, so it should work, but I'm just a little concerned that the belt's going to want to pop right off of that guy there. So might run that off and just take a look at it, see if I could put a couple washers behind it, kick it out a smidge. Guys, got some washers in here, so this is going to kick out about as far as I dare go because I need this lip in there to hang on to the post. So when we torquelize this, it ain't wobbling. Trick to get washers to fit into a certain inside diameter. Just hold it between your fingers, and don't judge by mine. It's not that bad actually. But just hold this against the grinder wheel firmly, but just enough to where it'll slowly rotate and you can take some of it off. Belt's too short. I want to run into town and get a couple different flavors. Keep the recips so I can turn them back, see if we get this figured out tonight yet. Store's about to close, I gotta hurry. Guy found one that fit, snagged her on. I don't know, maybe it'll work. That's the area we're gonna have to really pay attention to, is right there. I'm gonna go ahead and snip on the cold air of the intake system here, you know, the breathalyzer tube, and we'll probably just fire it up like that. We won't put this on yet or put any juice. I just want to see if this is going to fling off right away, because then there's no sense in having this in the way, and this is easy enough to get out. That's it. Looks pretty good, I think. I like the black, you know, instead of the shine aluminum or whatever other kind of flavors. So we got this booped in. Boop. You know, I guess we need that thing. This isn't hooked up, so it ain't charge latent. We're just going to have to watch the lightning cube here, and when that starts falling below 12, the Terminator X ain't going to be very happy. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But again, we should only have to run it for a little bit, so it won't have ice cube juice or anything. I just want to see if this flings off. If it stays on, then we can march forward. If it flings off, then, well, you know, we're back into that thing again. You hook your peepers on that belt now, and I'm going to fire it off and then run out here and see what this is wanting to do. You know what I mean? Okay, plan. Is it on? Oh, it's gonna come off. Just as I thought. There, it's walking off the water pump right now. Oh boy. Well, I got a couple options. Hook a chain on this rig and drag it out of here. Or just start, you know, tankering. So I tankered. I shaved some more of the cylinder head off, because that seems fine. I also ground down all the studs and everything that come out of the back of the charging whirler. That seems also okay. And then I'm going to make some spacers on the front side, because we got a little room in here, and try to push this back as far as I put, and that's still warm, as far as I can, to try to get this, you know, to do something. That's what we got. The other option, I could waller these out some more and move the bracket, but I'd rather the bracket be left alone if possible, because it's mounted flat against the surface, and that's keeping the pulley from doing this stuff. We just want it to do inner outer, hopefully. So I did this aforementioned planned and spacered this back, and then had to make a spacer for the pulley to get it out farther than I ever imagined. It's about 1/8 of an inch out right now, but it is solid. It's not going anywhere, and it's rating right on the edge. But most importantly, it's not coming off of the WP down there. It seems to be happy in all the pulleys, at least at idle and through a few revs. So I think for now, you know, this is done, which is fantastic. I'm gonna move on to the upper rad hose so we can get some ice cube juice in this thing, so we can let it idle for an extended period of time. I also need to wire up the charging whirler, which is going to be really easy. This is the old charge wire, just need to shorten it. It's going to go there. These are the old field wire for the boop charging whirler. This one here is going to be 12 volt switched, so I just need to get that into here, clean this up. I'm going to go ahead and put this in some loom similar to this, make that nice and clean. Put some more PS juice in here. I did put a little bit in since I was starting it. I didn't want to run that too long when it was empty. We got to burp that. So things are moving along, progressing once again. Upper rad hose in, overflow in. I have to put in a little block here for the steam port quick. And I think that's it. I went around and tidied up all the wiring. I took all the tags off. They're really nice for the installation, but I don't know, I just didn't like the way they looked afterwards. And vinyl taped everything up. Tried to make it look nice and clean as possible anyway. I think, fellers and fellettes, you're looking at a finished Hemi installation and a C10 right here. Let me get this plug in, then we got a big moment coming up. Put some ice cube juice in this. See how many leaks we have. Hopefully less than 17. And then we could put this thing through the paces tonight. Yeah. Wonder if the drain's closed. I guess we're gonna find out here in a minute. She's been a long road, fellers, but we're there. We got a couple gallons of coolant in her. Gonna fire it back up.
watch the vittles, make sure it's charging. We got oil pressure, and then watch this coolant. I got my coolant sensor and what used to be the, you know, air burpilizer in the cooling system, but vehicles didn't have those for 100 years, so we should be fine. Okay. Wonder how much gasoline I got in this thing. Not enough. That's the answer. Getting my gauges out. It's kind of nice to come with an 87-foot cord on these guys. Come in here and pick up some gauges. It is charging, 13.9 volts. Once it warms up enough, if you remember when we've done the other Ollie stuff, it'll start learning as far as the fuel map and air-fuel ratio and all that stuff. But we got to get her up to temperature. The other thing we're going to have to check here is the fans. I'm not sure what those are programmed as right now. That exhaust sounds good. I do have to back the fuel pressure off. We got plenty of oil pressure. I gotta back that down. Belt staying on. So 180 or 195. Let me turn that down for the fan. We'll do 190. Yeah, I gotta pull some of this out on the throttle blade. We're gonna do 700 for starts. Back to my fuel pressure. Perfect. TPS is at 0. Still charging. Here we go. Oh, went a little high when I tightened it. We're gonna come back a crack. There. That's settling it down. One of the things the guy had to do to get this fired up was mess with the injectors and the fuel pounds per hours and all of that, and the fuel pressure. That's that bottom left number. Actual fuel system pressure the computer's looking for is 60, so I got as close as I can. These are pretty touchy. There's the fan. You can see the coolant temp. 190 is when it kicked on. I gotta get some more juice in here quick. Both fans are on. Temperature's coming down. Got more ice cube juice in it. One of these should kick off here in a second. Yep. This one kicked off at 190. That one will kick off at 185, I believe. Already idling a lot smoother. And you can see here it's now learning. So it's doing the thing. Both the fans are operating correctly. It is burping a little bit of air. Gotta let it do its thing here a couple times. That sounds good. Power steering check. Oh yeah. Like butter. Learning, doing the thing. It's quiet until you stab it. Well, believe it, and or don't. Not a single leak on this rig whatsoever, other than the condensation coming out of the exhaust, which by the way sounds really good. I'm gonna have to put that on the shelf as an idea for the future. Power steering is working. It's staying cool. Fan 1 and fan 2 are doing the fan 1 and fan 2 things. It's charging, it's been learning, it's sounding better and better by the minute. But does the transmission do transmission things? Remember all that stuff we had to do back then? Yeah. The floor is a little tacky, but I'm gonna sacrifice my britches to jump in this thing and at least see if we got reverse and drive. Here we go. Maybe I could just kind of lean. Nope, I gotta just go for it. Okay. Well, it's definitely reverse. Neutral. Oh yeah. Oh, there she goes. I think I might be a little low on juice. Might have to check that out. Guy just pulled the blood stick on her and it is indeed pretty low. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some more cider in her, which should be fine. It went backwards, it went forward, there's a little pause there, but that's because it's low. What a fantastic day. I am without speech for once, believe it or not. Tell you what, Guy does not get very many opportunities to sleep. I've got a short one tonight and I'm going to sleep well, knowing this thing not only runs, but it moves, and so far it's doing all of the things it should be doing. Tomorrow, Jessica will be back with us after she takes the kids to school. We're gonna get this interior finished up as much as possible. We're still waiting on a few small detail items like vents and things like that, but I think we'll get the boom mat in. We've got a vinyl floor somewhere in inventory, get the seat in, get the dash in, get the dash gauges in, the bezel, and make this thing look like a truck, and more importantly, get this back on the road. See you bright and early tomorrow. Cold snack time. Quattro. No. Seis.
Good morning. We are back today. We're going to be putting the interior into the truck. I'm going to be using this boom mat. We've used these before in the past. They're really great for like sound deadening, insulation, all that. These are the instructions that they've sent over. So you can see it's pretty simple. You just have to lay down the mats kind of in the designated areas. Squish them down with a little rolling thing that they send over with it. And then we're putting the vinyl on top of that. That's actually outside right now, sitting in the sun, trying to get some of those wrinkles out. So let's get started. This is really simple stuff. It's literally just like peel and stick. So you're just kind of backing off, kind of line it up where you want it. This is going to line up really well with this little lip here. Push it down. And they send this really neat little tool. Kind of help you squish it in there.
Jessica's got the boom mat all laid in. She did an excellent job. Even got the back here, and she cut a couple pieces up and got it in around the shifter on the transmission hump here as well. So time to throw in that vinyl floor, wrestle that around, and get that seat in here. You know, I left this up to you fellers. I said, put it in the comments if you want vinyl again or carpet. And overwhelmingly, they said vinyl, actually. You guys have seen me do this 100 billion times. It's the same concept as carpet. Start at one side, especially in these old trucks. Get your hump, your sill, put an anchor in like a seat, and then we're just gonna work our way across, smoothing it out, and then come this way. Actually, last we'll be cutting in the shifter and the foot switch. Once all of this here makes sense, we'll probably even put our seat belt and the buckles in as anchor points, another seat belt. And then super easy on vinyl to find the holes. You can just do it with your finger. There. And then we'll have one up here, right there. Very simple. Vinyl floors are in. I gotta admit, looks pretty sharp. And A lot easier if you're actually using the rig. Like Jessica mentioned before, gonna go ahead and put, boy, look at these door seams. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, we're gonna put new weather stripping in here. I always start in the bottom, right about here, and then work my way back around and make my cut down there. Never put your gap anywhere up in here where wind or rain or anything like that can get in it. I like to lay the glue right on this metal here, and then when you push the seal up in, it squishes it into the channel. It's a lot cleaner, no mess, and I've never had them fail that way, where they just come unglued or anything like that. I use 3M trim adhesive. Shifter boot in. Unfortunately, when I was wrestling that around, I got a tear on the other side because I had to really force it down to get that to fit. It was put in without any floor covering, so it was pretty tight in there. Putting the weather stripping in, just a little, you know, tricks for kids. So I'll give you a tip. Old friend used to say that. You can see here I got my glue around, and then once I push this on with my hand, you know, push it on there. It looks like it's good, but it's not. You got a seat. See? Get in here, mallet, dead blow, your fist, your wife's purse, whatever. Hit it with something dense, okay? Make sure you get it nice and seated in there, and then when you come around and cut it, you don't go, oh, I didn't push it in over here, and you push it in and all you're short. See what I'm saying? Boy, this vinyl floor, I'm kind of digging it. Boom, done. Another little tip, use tin snips, because when you get into these, they have this metal in the band here. So you can cut right through that easily. Seats in, sharper than a thumbtack. Looking good. I'm gonna get asked, I'm sure of it. The vinyl floor, and remember the seat cover and the rubber and all this stuff comes from Brothers Trucks. And now I guess Guy can go ahead, slide the dash pad in here. I might not fully bolt that in because I'm waiting on some dash vents that ship on the 1st. So I got to take all that back out. But we'll get her set in enough to where we can get the gauges, boop, and the bezel in, and it's going to kind of complete the interior. Kind of almost regret not painting these or replacing them, but Guy wants to use this rig. You know what I mean? If I get a pearl snap or something in here and scratch it, I don't want to feel bad about it. New sill plate and hardware. Now all the guy had to do is just click on the old transmission shift knob here, select 46RE from the drop down, put in the maximum RPM, the maximum speed, which I put to 115 right now, enter the tire size, the rear gear, enable the speedometer output, bam, we have transmission stuff. So we can come in here to 3 to 4 shift. You guys, if you wanted to, you could change all this. It's kind of a by feel thing. We've got governor pressure already set in here. Again, you can come in and change this. After we drive it, we're going to see how it feels. The parameters here, minimum gear, TCC enable. You can adjust the minimum and disable here if you wanted to and all that stuff. And then we've got some inputs and outputs, which I'm not even going to touch. The only thing that I had to do was come in here for, let me go to my outputs here. Remember, we have to get the VSS speed signal out of the Holley into the gauges. So I've done that here by using B10. All I had to do is just, after I enabled my speedo, just drag it right down into there. Boom, we're done. That's going to be the PWM or pulse width stuff there. And that's literally it. Now, I'm eventually going to come in here, set up some rev limiters and a couple other things, and then drop this tune back in the truck. I've got a couple small things to do, and then we're going to go test drive this thing. Got to clean the windshield up, got to get the wipers fixed. I'm going to go ahead and swap the bumper quick, and then we're going to service the rear end on this too. Not only is the oil probably 314 years old, or full of water, or both, but I also want to verify the rear gear in this thing so the Holley is doing the correctly, because it's based on tire size and rear gear, so I want to make sure I get that right too. So let's get the truck up, service this thing, get a bumper on it, clean, 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 and then go drive. Ran down into Rusty Acres and look what I found. I knew that I saved on this for a reason. I can't remember what it came off of though, but other than this is a really nice bumper. I mean, truly. And just by looking at it, beep, pop, 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 measuring, beep, pop, 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 measuring complete. Yeah, it's about right for a square body, you know, 36 and something inches in between there. So we'll make this work. Comes with a hitch. Even got the lightolators. So we'll try to get that on and get this mangled thing off. That'd probably be halfway neat. But first, we're going to service this rear end because I want to smell like gear oil for the rest of the day. So I'm going to pop this cover off, take a look at it, make sure there's no physical damage. Silicones, you know, the room temperature vulcanizations. We don't run gaskets around here, fella. Snap it back on, fill her up, and then I think we're, you know, yep, that's good. Well, the guy is happy. He went on ahead and, you know, opened this up for a few reasons. One, it had a bunch of water in it, a ton of moisture. In fact, you could see where the gear, well, it's angled this way, of course, this was on the bottom, sat dipped in that moisture for so long, and that end up there. And just shows the truck was in fact sitting for years and years and years. The good news is all the shims look fine, the bearings seem fine, the spider gears are doing the spider things. I've rocked it back and forth. I don't have any excessive play or anything. And teeth look fantastic. The rear end is in really, really good shape in this. So that is the good news. The other reason I'm happy is I guessed over on the Beep Boop box 308s because the straight sixes, you know, the half dozen buzzins, usually had highway gears. They were made for economical vehicles and whatnot. This one actually has a 273. Now that isn't stamped on here, 273, but GM is excellent, as you can see by every single part in piece virtually in these cars and vehicles and whatever. GM puts a stamping on them. So I was able to just to throw that on the line, and the Google Webs box told me this is a 273 immediately. So it's really got a highway gear in this thing, which I guess that's okay. I'm going to leave that. Really no reason to replace it. Everything seems to be working fine. So we've got a 273 rear. Going to have to change that on the computer box, and then we'll send that file back to the Terminator so the speedometer is correct that way. Going to finish cleaning this out, just brake clean, wiping it out, make it nice and clean. Throw some goop in this, plop it back on, and fill it fast. Got that bent up brake off of here. As you can see, old feller backed her into something, or maybe it got rear-ended. I don't know, okay? But what I do know is they welded in crudely this thing to like support it in here. Got the old fire staff out, made that liquid. And after I cut this one out with the torch, I got to looking, boy, these are terrible welds. A guy did think to himself. And literally that and that is all that was actually holding it to the truck. So I just grabbed the old chisel, French I think, and just deleted on that. So now that guy and that guy is what we're aiming for on both sides. I did have to cut a nut off of one of those, but I think the wiring came out unscathed. They got a little hot here, but that'll wipe right off. Ain't worried about it. This one is significantly heavier. Get some. Uh-oh. Oh. Got a brachiitis in the way. Oh. What do we got? What am I looking at? Where are we at? What do we got now? What's over here?
What's this say? Are we close? Bumper is on. I'm going to lower it down. Shine her up here in a second. Look at this. It's going to feel weird. Just go with it. All new hardware throughout the installation. I know. Just, you know, just relax. Guys, going to wet this down with some sprayaways. And then quad zero steel wool, a little bit of brassé. That's also French, I think. Huh. Anyway, gonna shine this up. That looks incredible for reusing an old bumper. And I ain't kidding ya. I can't, it keeps shining into my eyelids. I realized where that came from about halfway through cleaning it there. Is the old Cat Farm crew cab. Okay, so now I got to figure out the blinking eyes. They ain't blinking and they're stuck like that. I got to clean up this stuff here. Also going to call in town. Thinking about replacing this windscreen. It ain't terrible. There's a chip in it and a crack over there, but just out of curiosity, let's see what we got. It's going to be the motor or the switch, or I guess the wiring, although we haven't had a lot of Mises in here, remember? You remember that now? So I'm going to check the fuse, check the switch. You know, let's get started. Start at the fuse, we'll go from there. Fuse is good. You could tell, well, because of the way that it is. Got this juiced up here on the ground. So when I get up in here, yep. Seems pretty consistent, I guess. So we got power here. This is doing the thing. So now we'll go check power at the motor. If we don't, and the switch is on, well, there's something going on here or betwixt the two. Well, fellers, looks like the wiper motor has failed us. No big deal. I think they're not too expensive, hopefully. I do have like 14 or 15 parts trucks, but none this year. They changed slightly. So I'm just going to order one up. And until then, I guess I'll take the wiper body arms off so they're not, you know, doing this. That would be nice. Blades are off for now. Windscreen's cleaned up. And this is what I was talking about. You know, there's a few rock chips in this. Maybe see if I can get that replaced. Moving on to the head lips. Didn't have any when I pulled on the stick. So I was doing some troubleshooting. And switch is fine. That's easy to check. Just pull off the cord on the side, test for power, and then test for power at the bulkhead connector. Didn't have power out there. To test the lights, super easy. I just take a jumper from the battery and just go to light green or tan. That's low and high. Either one on the plug. It'll backfeed power and headlight works. So this harness is fine here. So then, this is usually the culprit. These dimmer switches, because it goes from here to the dimmer switch, then out. So I just take a test lead, jump them, and when I pull this out, got headlights. And I got a marker light here, and a marker light here, so that's what I'm working on right now. Pulled that out. Just gonna go through here and see. I think that's just a colored 1157. Yep, sure enough. So get these replaced, and then or this guy here and that guy there, and then we got all the lights. Well, we got all lights, including blinkers, highs and lows, tail lips, everything. Just got to pick up a dimmer switch in the morning as well. Even blinking green in here yet. Well, there's still a handful of things to finish on the HemiHalf, but for now, a guy's just gonna get it out there and enjoy this thing. The truck has plenty of power, shifts great, and for whatever reason, handles really well without any odd shakes, vibrations, or noises.
Thanks to this transmission and the rear gear, this thing is an absolute bullet down the highway, and it looks great doing it. Special thank you to Holley Performance and their subsidiaries, Chad, Donnie, Scott, Jessica, and the boys, and of course, last but not least, all of you subscribers who have liked and commented on these videos. Thank you for helping me do what I love, saving a classic and building something truly unique.